Well, Olivia, thank you very much for coming and making yourself available during the beginning of what is going to be a very busy, I'm sure, holiday season. So I'm glad, I could get you before that. We're just going to talk today about school and about the classroom and about what your philosophy is and what you have to offer. And I'm just really excited to hear your voice, your perspective, your ideas, your opinions, and all that good stuff. And I hope people watching are too. So let's just get right into it. When you think about classrooms today, what feels off to you? If anything, I don't want to lead you, but what feels off to you? And how do you think that might have pushed you towards what you currently do now?
Yeah, I think what feels off, there's a few things. I guess if I were...
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
There's some things that are on, I'm sure, too, but what would you say feels a little bit off to you?
I think, so I'm not a permanent teacher, I'm an occasional teacher.
Yeah.
And I go into a lot of different classrooms and different things feel off depending on the classroom that I walk into. Mm-hmm. And it also, so it's dependent on the school and how the school is run, and the demographic of children that we support.
Right.
And teach.
Right.
So, for example, when I've taught in more affluent neighborhoods in the city, and when I walk into those classrooms, not a lot feels off.
Okay.
If anything, what feels off is the balance when I compare my experiences in those more affluent classrooms, compared to the model schools that I work in less affluent neighborhoods.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of clarity to people watching, what is a model school?
A model
in
school,
comparison to
yes.
So school?
They serve low-income neighborhoods with kids who are facing a lot of challenges at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so when you go into those spaces, what would you say feels off to you?
Yeah. So what feels off in those schools is the lack of support for the kids. There's not enough resources, tangible resources and non-tangible, like just the sheer manpower. So for example, I have been in kindergarten classrooms in those schools, and there are maybe like 5 kids in some of those classrooms who have really high needs, and who would really benefit from one-on-one support, but they don't have it. And what you have in that classroom is 30 kids, or 25 to 30, and one teacher and an ECE. And that's 2 adults in a classroom with around 3 to 5 kids who ideally need one-on-one support. And every kid needs one-on-one support in a way. Yeah. And so, but a lot of our time ends up going to these kids who are really high needs, who just, they literally sometimes glom onto you. Like, I'm teaching, right, and they're like crawling under the chair, or like in my face, and I'm just like, okay, and like, this is what we're doing.
I've seen it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's fine. Like, I don't mind. Like, but it's just like, it's not conducive to anyone's learning in the classroom. And
just to give people context, like, it is very much like that if you think about like kids at that age, because when you're talking about kindergarten, you're talking about kids, and we talked about this too, that have never really been in this type of a structured environment yet, mm-hmm, especially if they haven't gone to daycare. And then in some cases, if you have a younger cohort of a student, like they could be as young as 3 years old.
Yes.
Right? And so we're really talking about little babies. And so to have 2 people and then to have somebody that has special needs, not even special needs, but just regular needs, supportive needs that regular kids need, is a tall task. And then Just to add on to what you said, I've noticed as well, it's really quite challenging to identify any special needs when kids are at such a young age group, because they're just now entering the school system. So you might say, okay, or some of the public might say, well, let's get them support. But then there's a protocol that we have to follow, right? When you talk about getting them assessed to see if there may be some learning disability or if there might be some additional need that we need to support. And so oftentimes kindergarten teachers are left in a situation like that where that kid is not going to get support until after they leave kindergarten, probably grade 1, because we have to go through the channels, the proper channels to, meet with this support team and meet with this other school support team to get them labeled, right?
Yeah. And part of that, I think there's such a backlog in terms of, so there's, a kid who's been flagged, they need to get assessed.
Exactly.
But in order for them to get assessed, they end up joining a wait list. And that way, you say, yeah, they'll get support in grade 1. Maybe they'll get support in grade 1, right? But whereas, so here's where the imbalance is in terms of more affluent, or schools in more affluent neighborhoods versus schools that are not. The kids who attend, not all kids, of course, but kids who attend the more affluent neighborhood schools, their families are more likely to be able to afford to get assessed outside of school. So they'll get that assessment right away.
Exactly.
Whereas the kids in less affluent schools, like those model schools, they wait. And then that starts to create the gap in learning. And then that affects them, that learning and that development within those first 5 years is so crucial. And if things go missed, then you just create more struggle for them in the future.
100%. And I just want to piggyback on another thing that you said, which is a maybe. And that's what the general public doesn't understand, that when you do have a student that needs to be assessed, that doesn't have the means to go outside and get privately assessed, it's not just a waiting list like I'm in first place, second place, third place. It's actually more like a triage in the sense that if there is a student that has a higher need, you will get pushed down lower on the list. And that therein lies part of the problem. And I'm thanking you very much for actually bringing that to people's attention. I don't think the regular or general public fully understands that. And this is why sometimes we have some of these learning gaps or some of these behavior issues. It's a snowball effect.
It's a massive snowball effect.
And so I guess, what led you to being a teacher? And what you do now, and is there a connection?
Yeah. So when I went to university, I was 17, and I went to school for dance. And at the time, there were 2 streams. You could go into choreography or performance or education. And I was adamant, I don't want to teach.
Right.
I don't want to do it. I was I want to perform, or I want to do, I don't know. I was 17. I don't know what I want to do. But for whatever reason, I was I don't want to teach. And I can't tell you why I didn't want to teach. It was just no. And then I kind of just went the course, and I thought, okay, I'm going to perform. And then I got injured, of course. And then I went more, okay, I'm going to do more arts administration and stage management and production management. So I did that. And I got a job doing that outside of school with a dance company. And it ended up just not sitting right with me. It was not, it felt like the arts are wonderful and they can be so beneficial and so giving, but where I was, wasn't that. It was more selfish and egotistical. I'm going to feed. It felt like I was feeding the egos of a lot of artists.
Right.
And it didn't feel right. It felt like I wasn't using my time the way that I wanted to use my time. So I kind of took some space and reflected and thought, okay, what's my next move here? And one thing when I was working for that dance company was they did a community dance festival, actually, and there were some kids who were dancing in it. And I was just really kind of taken away by them. And I thought, you know what, they're so capable. And then I kind of thought, you know what, Liv, you were a student teacher for grade 12, like in these in classes, and you were really good at it, and I really enjoyed it, and it didn't feel like work for me.
Well, that's always a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah, and I taught some dance a little bit with little ones earlier, and I just thought, maybe like you do want to teach. Maybe this like no teaching was, you were trying to like, I don't know, protect yourself. Weird. I don't know. Anyway, so I thought, okay, let's do it. So then I started working in what did I do? I nannied for a bit. I tutored for a bit, and I was really just trying to break my way into it. And I just worked with kids in a lot of different settings, and then I worked at a Montessori school for a summer camp, and then I was working with some early childhood educators, and I thought, I'm not going to go anywhere without some sort of license.
Right. Not paper. We
Yeah.
need paper. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, here we go, back to school. I really admired the ECEs and what they did, and the types of relationships that they had with these kids, and the knowledge of kids' capabilities. And I think being at a Montessori school really helped with that, because Montessori really encourages independence. Not in a way that, you know, like they shouldn't be able to depend on adults. They need to. That's very important.
Right.
But in a way like, no, I believe in you. Like, you can set the table and clear your plate after lunch, and that will empower you, actually. So then, yeah, I went to school to become an ECE, and I was I just fell in love with taking care of little ones. And then, unfortunately, being an ECE in our society doesn't, it's not very valued. And I was like, okay, well, I want to have a family of my own, and I need to go back to school, and because you need two incomes at this point to really survive and have a family.
Yep.
So I went back to school to become an Ontario certified teacher, and then that brought me into the public school system, and so that's what that was kind of my journey since maybe 2017, 2018. So just, yeah. And I didn't really think teaching would be my be all and end all. I knew that I wanted to probably do something different at some point.
Right.
Still servicing kids and families, but throughout that journey, I found what I'm good at and what I enjoy about working with kids and families, and I learned what I don't like about the systems that we have set up for our kids. And after getting injured on the first day of school this year, it's been a whole process to go through reporting the injury to the school board and to WSIB, and then trying to get financial support for myself while I'm off to heal, and navigating that system without any support. And from the school board guiding me in what to do. No, like the administrator that I was working with, she didn't help me, but also she's like, she doesn't have time to help me with stuff. And I'm just an occasional teacher, and and then all their WSIB is coming up with dates that I'm going to randomly be better to go back to school, and just disregarding the medical advice from my physiotherapist or a sports medicine doctor. And I had to wait 2 months to get a paycheck.
Wow.
And I got denied EI over the summer,
which is employment insurance, for those of us that are not. So I think that what you're discussing is really important, because I think it's something that a lot of us deal with in our own careers and our jobs, but it's kind of like you are passionate about one thing, and then you realize that along with this role now comes all these other things that you don't necessarily love. And so what I'm listening and what I'm hearing you say is that you have a passion for working with little kids, or just kids in general. And I can see how your eyes light up when you talk about it. But what I also see is that you are kind of feeling like there are certain things, policies, maybe traditions, or maybe just red tape that exists that's holding you back from doing what you actually love to do.
Absolutely.
And so I wonder if you could speak on that a little bit more. Like, what would you say, like, if you could say some tangible things that have sort of pushed you away from this profession? You mentioned one of them, obviously the process of getting injured. But if you could maybe speak to that a bit more, like, what are some of those traditions, or what is some of that red tape, or what are some of those policies and things that you've encountered that have sort of maybe pushed you away or repelled you from this profession rather than brought you towards it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What repels me is the policies and the red tape. What's kept me in it is the kids and the families. And the red tape, like I remember when I used to teach in Ottawa, and I was teaching at a school in a kindergarten classroom, and one of the kids was high needs. He was diagnosed on the spectrum. He was in diapers, and was having a really tough time in the classroom that day, lots of screaming, and I had observed one of my co-teachers working with him, and it wasn't conducive to what he needed in my experience and based on how he was reacting. He needed so I just thought, okay, I'm gonna chat, like just check in with this educator. I don't know where they're at. And I said, hey, like I noticed that, there's some voices being raised, and, he's not regulating very well. Can I support you in any way? And she said, no, it's fine. I was like, okay, I shared, all right. And then later on in the day, it was just nothing was changing. And I saw that he was like reading a book, doing his thing. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go connect with him and see if I can give him a break.
Right.
So I connected with him. It was great. And, he needed to change his diaper. And I was like, well, I'm an ECE. This is not a problem with me. And I find changing or that diapering routine is actually, it's a really beautiful way to connect with a child.
Yeah, it's a bonding, as a parent, it's a bonding.
It is,
moment. Yeah.
it is. Yeah. And I'm they're spending a large part of their day with me. I'm a caregiver for them today. Right. However, I'm the teacher. I'm not the ECE. I'm not supposed to change their diaper. I'm not supposed to touch them.
Again, let's just delineate for the general public. So there's two adults working in a kindergarten classroom.
Yes.
One is a teacher, one is considered an early childhood educator,
yes.
hence the term ECE.
Yeah.
And there's actually a delineation, like there's certain roles that a teacher is allowed to do versus an ECE, and that is dictated actually by your union. So it's
yes.
actually like law,
yes.
right? So I think just to give people context that are listening, and so like as a teacher, that is actually not your role. You are actually not allowed to be changing a diaper. It is specifically the role of the early childhood educator.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So sorry, I just wanted to
yes. Yeah. However, as an educator who is an ECE as well, in that moment I'm the teacher though. But
like in that moment, your role is actually your title is teacher, not ECE.
Yes.
You have those credentials, but you're not.
No.
Okay. Got it.
And however, I've witnessed all day that there is not a healthy connection between this adult, the ECE, and this child. So I have to use my professional judgment in this situation. Do I carry on this connection with this child and make it a game? I know they need to get their diaper changed and bring them to the bathroom, and I facilitate the diaper change. And do I take the risk and make sure that this child is being taken care of as best as I know that they need?
Forgetting about whatever the rule book says, just like from, like you're saying, for a professional judgment standpoint, from like a human connection standpoint.
Yes. Do I use my common sense or do I not? I always use my common sense. And I know if I end up being held liable or I lose my license, then you know what? I'm an example. And it is what it is, and it wasn't meant to be. And I know that what I did that day is what that child needed. Right.
You know in your heart of hearts that you did what you think the parent would want to happen, let's say, right?
Yeah. So you know what? I did it. I scooped him up. We pretended he was an airplane. I'm not like, we're not supposed to carry kids, but you know what? When I was in ECE, it wasn't a problem. So that's what I did. And I carried him over to the bathroom, and we had a beautiful diaper change, and I encouraged him to be independent with it. We washed our hands and we carried on. And then at the end of the day, when I handed in my keys, I got reprimanded because I guess the ECE had felt however they felt about it, and told the VP, the vice principal, about what happened, and they said, as what you would imagine they would say. Yeah, so I never went back to that school, and it was a big shame because I had a wonderful day with that class.
Yeah, and that's actually a perfect example of the red tape.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier, just to give another example, and the example was like two kids are fighting.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like you're constantly towing the line as an educator, right? It's like I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. So if I see two kids fighting and I do not intervene, I am labeled as being perhaps negligent.
Yes.
As the educator. But now if I do intervene and I put my hands on a kid to like physically separate them or break them up, now I'm opening myself up to allegations for putting my hands on a child.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just constantly kind of stuck between this rock and a hard place. And I thank you for sharing that example, because that's actually a perfect example. That's coming from like a human connection piece, and you're still getting reprimanded because the rule book says you're not supposed to do it. Right? So we're not actually thinking about kids.
No.
We're not thinking about humans. We're just thinking about, what does the book say?
That's exactly what we think about.
Rule?
The education system is very black and white, when really in reality, education is gray. Mm-hmm. It's very gray.
It is.
And
it is.
Kids, their development is gray. However, and another thing too is like, although that the rule book, mm-hmm. it's not based in child development. Mm-hmm. But who does it affect? Kids. Yeah. They suffer as much as we suffer. They suffer.
Correct. It is very much I want to save myself from any type of allegation. Right?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because
very much
that
so.
Those policies are there because there are some really bad apples who have done horrid things, mm-hmm. who have they were privileged enough to call themselves a teacher. And they have ruined it for so many other people. And
it's one of those things too, because when you talk about critical thinking, which we're supposed to be teaching our kids, it's sort of like in this profession, a lot of times you actually get stopped when you do use your critical thinking in trying to do good things, because like we talked about, people are worried about how that's going to be perceived, whether we're following the rules, so to speak, and again, about opening up themselves to some sort of allegation. So it's really, really unfortunate, but I'm glad that you're sharing this, just so people know that sometimes educators are not it's not that our heart is not in it. It's that we're bound by mm-hmm. certain guidelines that are sort of available to us, and we are constantly trying to balance that, right, between what's good and what we know is actually right, mm-hmm. In our hearts, and what we're actually allowed to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And another thing, like, to build off of that, like, I don't have a family to support, so I feel like I can take that risk. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of educators who do have families to support, and they don't necessarily have that privilege.
Yep.
To take that risk.
Actually, even just to piggyback off what you said, we have a teaching publication here in Ontario, and mm-hmm. if you are subject to some sort of an allegation, we call them the blue pages.
Yes.
And your situation can actually be put in the blue pages. And so for those people listening, it's sort of like an account of what actually took place, why you were reprimanded, and it's actually public for all of your colleagues to see. And there are privacy issues around that, so they will not release your actual name, but it is almost like a public shaming that we have just kind of allowed to happen. And it's, again, this is a monthly publication that will come out to teachers in Ontario. And at the very back of that publication, you will see a bunch of different various accounts of these sort of allegations that have took place. And I just think about another teacher that had been wrongly accused of something, who had all been in the blue pages, but also had been on the internet and had been in the news, and actually was unable to shake that negative allegation off, even though it was found that they were completely innocent, because their face had been posted all over the internet, right? So it's just
And then
one
we
of
lose
those
another
really
good teacher.
unfortunate things. And again, just to give the public some context on what educators have to kind of navigate, right? Like, we're not just doing our jobs. It's like it's more nuanced, I would say, right? So thank you for sharing that. I want to turn the corner a bit, because we have a table full of like these awesome things. And we talked about a bit about how, we should rethink maybe how our classroom spaces look. And when I look into your average classroom, there's just a lot of things on the wall. There might not be, but generally we're told to put a lot of things in the wall. Like, we use the term the third teacher, as if to say, you have these anchor charts, which is just charts to remind you, put a capital at the beginning of your sentence, put a period at the end of your sentence. Maybe things to remind you of like, addition and subtraction strategies and rules. And so what can happen oftentimes in a classroom is that you go in and it's so busy. Like, there's just stuff posted over every single inch and space of the room, that I find sometimes it becomes overwhelming for kids. And rather than actually like looking at focusing on those, like that third teacher, that anchor chart or what have you, they actually just ignore it because it's just too busy. And so what you're bringing is something counter to that. And we talked a little bit about it, just the physical space, and we made a connection between that and like your home and how it's inviting and comfortable and somewhere that you actually want to be. And so I want to actually transition our conversation a little bit to that right now. What is something that you would say is super simple or inexpensive that kids respond to way more than some of that traditional stuff, like the tech stuff or even the anchor charts that are on the walls?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I brought a few things.
Yes,
but
please,
I'm going
let
to
us-
just pick up a pine cone. So a pine cone, you can find it outside, and they're beautiful.
Nature.
It's nature. It's so simple. It's free. You can go on a walk with your class, and you can bring a paper bag or just your pockets and collect pine cones and put them in, and you can use them for art. You can dip them in paint, and you can have a beautiful texture. You can stamp with them. You can paint them, create a decoration. You can collect lots of them, and you can use them for numeracy to start counting collections and grouping them. You can use them for, it can be a literacy jumping off point to describe like a pine cone. What are these things? What color is it? How does it feel? And it's free.
Yeah, no,
It's amazing.
just in listening to you talk about it, I'm coming up with two ideas that I'm thinking about. My son just recently did an art project where he had to go out in nature and collect 5 different artifacts. And essentially, he used an art technique. It's called frottage. I believe. And so that's just a perfect springboard right there. I also think about like the Fibonacci sequence. So math and art really, and how that can be found in nature, right? So yeah, already just with that small little pine cone, right? We're seeing that there's already so many uses for stuff like that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And like, it's not just pine cones, like, cut up piece of wood.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? And it's, the thing about this is not colorful. It's not like overwhelming to look at. Nice neutral colors. It's not overstimulating. And it brings the outside in. And it makes things really simple.
And it's kids just using their imagination and
That's
creativity
exactly it.
to come up with something that is fun in that moment. Like before we started shooting, we talked about all these games that we used to play as kids that required little to no equipment, literally just our creativity and our minds. Like what did we talk about? Kick the can, for example. I talked about a game called Pizza. But there's stuff like that. And then we also talked about like this old adage, right? You know, you give a kid this new toy, you know, they might like be entertained for 15 minutes. But if you give them a box, they'll find so many different uses for that, or the bubble wrap, for example. So especially for our younger kids that we're trying to promote the imagination and creativity rather than just tech and screens.
Yeah, well, it's really, exactly. It's,
this is counter to that. So thank you. I don't know if you want, there's anything else that you want to kind of show and explain?
Yeah, I think like kids have beautiful imaginations and a wonderful sense of play. And for whatever reason, we lose that when we get older. And I think, you know, screens are a reality today.
Yes.
But it just feeds them everything and they don't need to think.
Yes.
And what a loss. And I'm like, my God, I get it. Sometimes you just need to sit your kid in front of a screen. There's no shame. Like, no shame. But also like, maybe let's like balance it. You know, like take him outside.
No,
Show him a pine cone.
100%. Like I found that our generation, not our generation, but the younger generation can sometimes give off this like helpless energy because they're so used to things getting done for them from a technological standpoint. Like I can ask Google anything. Obviously now we have the AI that, you know, like even just simple things, like I can go on Canva and I can, you know, come up with something that made me look like a graphic designer within minutes. So it's just the time that we're in, but it's stopping them from thinking on their feet and from being able to critically think about stuff, or just like you said, it's stifling their imagination and creativity because it's like, no, I can just go on this thing and it'll provide me something without me doing the thinking. So it's a bit unfortunate. But that kind of leads into my next question, which is if you could remove one thing from classrooms everywhere, and maybe it's not one thing, but I'll just say one. If you could remove one thing, what would that thing be?
Like a tangible?
Yeah, something that you think we could all be better without. Like I'll leave it open-ended. It doesn't necessarily have to be tangible, but something that maybe we could do without. What would that thing be? What might that thing be?
YouTube.
But
like, or like the.
I have something to say.
I like hesitate because I know it's kind of.
No, don't hesitate. Do not hesitate. And we're here to share perspectives and opinions. And so it's like, if somebody disagrees with that, like that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And that's like, let's have the debate. Like, let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
We don't all have to agree. So yeah.
Yeah, like, and like not totally like no YouTube and like no screens and no slide deck or whatever, but like so much of kids' days revolve around the projector.
Yeah.
And then at recess or not like an indoor recess, okay, we're going to put on a TV show. Or during lunch, okay, we're going to put on the timer or a TV show. And it's used as like behavior management when we're taking away kids' opportunity to learn how to self-regulate without a screen.
So it's not necessarily YouTube per se, but it's just the abundance of screen time.
Oh my God, there's way too much. And there doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
There really doesn't need to be. And I think it really takes away from self-regulation and socializing, which is what kids come to school for. Like as much as they come to school for learning, like they come to school to be socialized and to build that executive
100%.
function.
And unfortunately, it's a byproduct of school, but it is what school has become in large part.
Yes.
I think that you have definitely hit on something. There's two things that it makes me think of, and it's just this, like, there's a lot of content going out now that just talks about how valuable it is to write things down rather than like typing it. So I think about like, actually in my classroom right now, I do have a screen and a projector, but I also have like the old school blackboard with the chalk. And I found that, yeah, I'm switching back and forth. And there is some value in that. They don't always need to be looking at something being projected on a screen.
No.
The second thing is it's making me think about, no, the actual program YouTube, which is funny because this is going to be on YouTube as a platform. But like I follow this he's not an engineer, he's a tech person. He calls himself, I can't even remember what his name is, but he's a tech professional. And his channel promotes the dangers of some of this tech. And he talks about how he doesn't let his own kids go on specifically programs like YouTube, but he talks about how they're specifically the never-ending programs. So your YouTube, obviously, your Instagram, because they never end. Your TikToks, they never end. And what it creates is like, obviously this dependency, the dopamine, all of that stuff, but it never finishes, right?
Yeah.
Like you can scroll on YouTube and TikTok forever, like it's bottomless. And that is kind of what the scary part is, because when you talk about kids that cannot self-regulate, right, and you give them a screen, like honestly, I hate to see if my nephew sees this, but we went to a family thing earlier this summer, and he's like 13 or 14, and I did not see him the entire time. Where was he? He was hanging out on his phone, just scrolling. Like I never saw this boy. We were going on hikes, we were going out, like we were at a cottage, you know, and it's that kind of like thing, you know, and I know a lot of people are watching this and they can relate, and it's kind of like now you're like having this battle with your kid because of the addiction, the obvious addiction that adults are also dealing with.
Oh my
as
God,
well,
yeah,
right?
I'm addicted. So, like,
yeah, so let's not try to pretend like we're holier than thou. That's not the issue.
No.
But it's just like we need to regulate it at some point, and I thank you for bringing that up because a lot of this is happening at school. So even if you're a parent that's like, well, I don't really do that with my kids, like it's important to know that there's an abundance of screen time that's also
and they get like their own Chromebooks at school too. And I've been in so many classrooms as an occasional teacher where in my notes, it's like if they've been good, whatever that means, throughout the day, you can give them like an hour or like last period on their Chromebooks to do whatever they want.
That is the reward.
And it's like, what? We're like 40 minutes of instructional time is going to be spent on YouTube, and I can't regulate it because I'm only one person and I can only circulate so fast. Like, and I don't have access to turn off certain programs for these kids. And then I go around and they're like, oh Lord, I've seen some things. Like,
yeah. And I know some educators are going to watch this and say, well, there are some programs where you can see what the kids are working on and this and that. But I would say to those people that we're missing the point, right? And it's that like the abundance of technology and the lack of regulation and the amount of responsibilities that the teachers have to do, like you said it yourself, like parents are like, okay, I just need a second. So you're just gonna watch this thing.
Yeah.
Now, and that's with like one or two, like on the high end, like 3 or 4 kids, right? We're talking about 30.
oh yeah.
We're talking like 30.
Yeah.
So, and then just to set the stage for people, like when you have 2 of those clingers that are on you as well, right? It's like, I just want people to just make a mental picture of that in their mind. Like it is nothing short of a zoo. Like,
Oh, it is a zoo. And like, I get it. To be like, you know what? I'm exhausted. I cannot think anymore. Go on your Chromebook. Like,
exactly.
I have to take care of, like, I have to write up this accident report. I have to do this admin right now. And I'm just the occasional teacher. Like, I have to make a call to CAS. Like, like, school is not a place of learning really anymore. Sometimes it's just trying to get through the day.
A lot of the times, and I've spoken to this, like not to just harp on this all the time, but it's about this idea of like, if you take an audit of the time, right? Like we say, okay, procrastination, this word is thrown out there a lot. But if you take an audit of a child's time and how much is actually they're learning, like they're there for 8 hours a day, right? When you think of how much time is spent, like even just getting ready to go out to recess, getting kids to sit down and settle down and be quiet and be ready to learn.
Most of the time.
Which is most of the time. And then when you actually take a look at how much learning was physical, like tangible learning was being done, you might be lucky if you got like an hour, maybe 2. They're there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, and that's just something that people don't often like sit down and think about. And so this is why maybe sometimes you have proponents of homeschooling or other alternative forms of learning, because it's like, if you're going to be there for 8 hours a day, and a part of that time is going to be your socialization, where you have to sit down and like learn how to interact with other people, and then a large part of that is going to be the screen time that you get, then how much time are we actually sitting down and learning something new, right?
Yeah.
Exploring and things of that nature. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what happens is kids come home overstimulated and they're tired and they are home, and ideally home is a place where they can just let loose, and when they get home from school they can just be like, like I don't want to do this anymore, instead of, you know, hiding in a shell and be like, I can't express myself. That's a whole other conversation. But like and then they wake up and they just have to do it all over again because they're overstimulated and they lose it, and their parents have been working all day and they're like, I can't do this again tonight, and they just like, just watch TV or go on the internet, and then they wake up at 6 and they do it all over again. And it's exhausting. It's just 5 days a week. Like, we're asking so much of our kids, so much of them. Yeah.
And so I think a big takeaway from here today too is just maybe we need to scale back. So I feel like we haven't talked about this enough. We're about to like move on to another set of questions, but I think that one thing I would love for people to take away from our conversation today is the overstimulation. And it's not just with the screens, it's also with the way perhaps that we design our classrooms. And maybe it needs to be a slow build, and maybe we need to think a little bit more about like making it an inviting, comfortable, relaxing space.
Yeah. So to go off of, you know, they spend so much of their day at school, it's their second home. And it needs to feel like home. And for some kids, home is not necessarily the most comfortable place. And like, man, like caregivers are trying their best. I get it. No caregiver doesn't love their kid. But sometimes there's only so much that you can do. And it's our job as educators to fill that gap. I feel like it is our job to do that. And so, okay, how does home feel? It feels warm. It feels inviting. It feels relaxing.
It feels comfortable.
It's comfortable. I can be myself. If I need to eat, I can go eat. If I need to rest, I can go rest. But there's structure at home, in the ideal home environment, right? There's structure, there's routine, and I know what's expected of me. That's what we need to do and create in a classroom. So like this, there's not really any bright colors. There is color, but it's not overstimulating. It's curated.
Right, right.
I thought about every single piece that I have here. Like a teacup. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. If I throw it, it's not going to break. A 5-year-old likes to throw things. They like to test things. Is it going to break? Like, okay, it's not going to. It's beautiful. It's going to stand the test of time. It's reused. So within this, we're also teaching we can reuse old things. And there's beauty in old things. And there's craftsmanship in old things.
My son is going to hate me because I'm just making a connection between all the stuff you're saying. He got a shirt as a gift, and the shirt has been made to look vintage. And I saw it in the bottom of his drawer yesterday, and I was like, why don't you wear that shirt? I was like, it still has the tag on it. Like, you got this for your birthday. He's like, well, I don't like the way it looks. And I was like, why? He's like, it looks old. And I was like, that's the look. Like, it's supposed to look. Right? So it's almost like there's a lack of appreciation for like this vintage, like older stuff, reusable stuff. And it's just kind of like, no, give me the new shiny thing. Give me the thing with the bells and the whistles and the lights. So there is a value in this as well, right? That things from the past, and which we know as adults, tend to actually be better quality in some cases. They were not made to break.
They weren't made to break.
But kids are losing even that as well.
Yeah, and what happens is that they lose respect for the things in their environment.
Oh my God.
Right? And then everything becomes oh, well, I'll just get a new one.
A new one.
And it's like, no, the red tape, educators are funding their classrooms.
Yep.
Maybe we get a couple $100 at the beginning of the year, but what does that go to? It goes to crayons and paper, and we have to like ration the paper we get.
Yep. Even that. There's paper wars.
Yes.
Where you're like, this person used all my paper in the photocopying machine, and like even things like that, people don't understand.
Yeah. So if I'm going to spend money and bring something into the classroom, it's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to teach lessons.
Cannot tell you how much of my own money I have used to bring into the classroom. Like even just creating a game the other day, I was like, okay guys, the winner is gonna get like this as a prize. So now I have to go out and get a prize for each class. But it's stuff like that. One of the only professions where you're gonna steal from home and take from your own pocket and bring it to work.
Yeah.
So thank you for also mentioning that.
Yeah. So those are the kind of materials I bring in. I chose to bring this with me. It's an old frame. It's, reusable, but that's a child's piece of art that they drew me. That's really and it's beautiful and it deserves to be framed. It doesn't deserve to go in the trash like a lot. And I think there's like, in terms of putting things on the wall, and the wall's becoming like just like this dumping ground for things like, make it intentional. Each child, I focus on the early years because that's, my passion. But like each child just gets a clipboard. It's simple. You put it up. They write their name and they put it, like they have their name on their clipboard, and anytime they draw something, it goes on the clipboard. And at the end of the week, you can empty it and they get to bring it home.
Right.
And then you have some frames in the classroom, which, what do we have at home? We frame things that are important to us, right? And we frame their work. Like if they're really proud of something, they've been working on something for a long time, it's going in the frame.
That's right.
We might not have a fridge, but it's going to go up on that frame wall, right?
That's right.
Because they need to see themselves in the classroom and reflected in the classroom and their hard work.
Not have it be, maybe that's where the Montessori comes in, but not have it be dictated by another adult. I also find, this happened last week, kids working on some poster, Mister, is this good? Is this good? And it's like, no, you don't need my validation. Ask yourself, if you think that it's good, then it's good.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what matters. It doesn't matter what I think, right?
Yeah.
But this is the kind of like the society that we've created where it's like, we're looking for external validation.
Yes, and that comes from the clicks, the likes on...
And also from the grades.
In the grades,
we don't care if we've learned anything. It's just like, okay, did the teacher say that I got the good grade? And if so, if I got the good grade, then that validates my worth as an individual.
Yeah.
And that's so problematic.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna start with the lightning round. So I have a series of questions. It's kind of a new segment that we're doing. It's a new segment. So just concise, not even concise, just speak your truth. It is what it is. But they're not meant to be like long answers, but just we'll go wherever it takes us. So first question, what would be on your Christmas list? Yeah. It is the Christmas season right now.
Tangible or?
It's open-ended. Yeah. World peace, I don't know. No.
I don't know. I feel like you need to have like this perfect answer, but
no. Just whatever the first thing that comes to mind.
The first thing that comes to mind, and I'll bring it back to teaching, is I always find it really hard to leave the kids before the holidays, and because I know that not all of them are going to have the best time. So I just really, truly wish from the bottom of my heart that they have enough food to eat over the holidays.
Okay, yeah, that's special. That's really nice, actually. Well, you think about like Christmas time, that is a time to like break bread and like family and friends, like, and food is like a big bringer of people together, I guess, if that's a term. Yeah. So thanks for that. Next question. If you could tell the world one thing about what you're doing, what would it be?
Okay, so I started this little thing called the Treasure Trove. And I started it when I was going into a lot of classrooms and I was noticing that there were a lot of items that would be breaking and it was usually plastic. We know a lot now there's more coming out now about like microplastics.
Yes.
And I was just like, you know what, I think perhaps to some people it sounds a little woo-woo, even to me. I'm like, well, I don't know. But then I'm also like, no, this is like science live. Like, is this, like, there's so many plastics in diapers.
Yeah, it's all over. It's rampant.
It's all over, right?
Yeah.
So like, what can I do to try to reduce that impact and try to teach kids more about that? And I was thinking about my training and as an ECE about the third environment in classrooms. I was like, okay, what can I do? And I thought, okay, well, I love going thrifting. So, and a lot of times when I go thrifting, I find things that I'm like, oh, that would be so nice in a classroom. So I started the Treasure Trove, where I curate and collect these things that I find thrifting or at garage sales or estate sales. And then I present them to shore teachers. Teachers should not be spending their own money to fund their classrooms, but it is a reality. But also bring it like an educator's perspective to items that perhaps people with children or caring for children wouldn't see the potential in, and I guess, well, sell them. So I already showed the teacup, but like this teacup, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's too beautiful to give to a child. Like, well, you're limiting the child and what they can do and what they're capable of handling. And like, if you just show them, this is a silver teacup, it's special. As soon as you say it's special and then they see it shiny, they're like, it's the silver teacup that I'm going to use, and they'll take care of it.
Well, just to piggyback off what you're saying, the alternative, because I'm thinking about the centers that they do, and the one that we probably all know is the one where they're in the kitchen.
The dramatic center.
Right? And so like the alternative is what? It's just going to be a plastic teacup.
A plastic teacup.
Right?
Sometimes they're durable, but they will break. They do release these microplastics that we know about now. And they're just not as beautiful, and there's not as much care put into their creation. Wow. And I think we have Maria Montessori, it's something that she says is bringing beauty into the classroom, because why are we holding that back from kids to teach them about the beauty and craftsmanship and things, and to teach them like, this is something that you can do. Like the artwork that you do is beautiful, and take inspiration from those things. Like, and even like a shell, like these are, you don't have to, like, I found this at the thrift store. Right. Like ideally you go to a beach and you find them, but also like there's a whole thing about keeping those things there. Right. But like, a shell is beautiful. Why can't we use that instead of these like snapping cubes, which are like, snapping cubes are great for dexterity, but also like same a shell is too, right? And it's natural and it's beautiful, and it teaches our kids to respect the environment. And they spend so much time sometimes on their phones or on technology or inside that they don't go outside, and they don't learn to respect the environment and the time that goes into building a rock, or making a rock. And I just think like, these plates, why are we spending money on plastic plates from a winter, sorry, I
would much
love
rather
winter green,
have those in my home, to be fair.
from these catalogs, and like these gorgeous plates, and they're durable, they're wood, and I think this is like a Ukraine plate. Like one of my friends who's Ukrainian was like, oh, that's like a traditional Ukrainian plate. And I'm like, oh, then we can
really
talk about culture there. Like it's just a jumping off point.
Yeah, like I might even use that as a coaster at home or something like that.
Sure.
Those are really nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think you just inspired the title of this episode, Bringing Beauty Back to the Classroom, or something along those lines, because that quote is something that just resonates with me. And I think that, we need to really think that.
And that's what we strive for in our home. We want our homes to be beautiful. Why can't our classrooms be beautiful? And but unfortunately, we're just in teachers' college. We're not taught about that.
No, we're not.
We're not even taught child development.
Barely. I mean, they do talk about your Piagets and your Deweys, but it's very finite, and that is a real thing.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you for that. Next question: what's one trait of a good teacher?
I'm like between two. I'm between two. I'm between patience and compassion.
Okay, well, let's go with both. Patience is definitely something that you need as a teacher. That goes without saying. And the compassion piece, I feel like it's almost like part and parcel. I think most of us have become teachers because of that compassion piece when you see that, yeah, this kid has potential and where they could go. And
Yeah.
at least from my perspective, yeah. So thank you. Next question. What's one trait of a bad teacher? The opposite.
I have such a hard time with this question because I'm like, every teacher's trying their best, but like, I've seen a lot. And sometimes.
Well, here's the thing. I know people are going to scoff at this maybe, but some teachers show up for a paycheck.
They
It gets
do.
to a point. I know teachers are not paid what they probably deserve.
They're paid a lot more than ECEs and educational assistants.
That is correct. That is a good point to make.
Those educators do the same thing. So, we're paid decent.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. One of our first interviews was with an ECE, and we did touch on that a little bit. So thanks for reminding us. Yeah. But what's one trait of a bad teacher?
Lack of empathy.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
What's the most useless thing you learned in school?
The useless thing I learned in
Useless thing.
school. I don't know if they're like, I'd say the useless thing I did in school
Okay.
was, and it was during teachers college, was spending multiple classes. Like it was like a combined art and math class. And we spent most of those classes creating art in an art book, like a sketchbook.
But it was a math class.
Math and art.
Math and art class. Okay.
But there were numerous classes that we had spent creating art
Okay.
because it was practical.
This was in teachers college.
In teachers college.
Wow. Could have used that time to learn about child development,
Yes.
right? Okay. And our final question, what is the most valuable thing that you actually have learned in school? The most valuable thing, or one of the most valuable things?
It wasn't in school. I brought her with me. The most valuable thing I learned was from this woman here, Colette.
Who is Colette?
Colette was my the best boss I ever had. I'm gonna put it right there.
Yeah.
She was my boss at the Head Start nursery school I worked at in Ottawa. It was part of a community health center. We serviced kids who were the most in need in our catchment area. And she taught me everything I know. The reason I am doing Treasure Trove is because of Colette. The reason I have the compassion and understanding that I have is because of her.
Wow. Wow.
She gave everything, and she unfortunately left us last New Year's.
Oh, wow.
But she gave her life to the kids, and there were no screens in that nursery school. It didn't matter what our budget was. If families didn't have diapers, we were allowed to give them diapers. If they didn't have milk, we would give them a bag of milk from the fridge, and we would add in crackers and cheese and whatever, because that's what they needed, and that's what those kids needed. And a healthy family makes for a healthy kid. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what? I left here today, or I left for the podcast today, and I felt I had all these things to bring, and I was like, something's missing, and I don't know what it is, and I was kind of fretting. And before I left the door, I was like, I need Colette with me right now.
Wow.
So I just grabbed her.
Yeah, no, that gives me chills. We're dedicating this episode to Colette. Literally.
Yeah. Like,
It's always somebody that sort of catapults you to where you're at, right? Like oftentimes we say with teachers, like you had another teacher that inspired you, right? This is very much like a teacher in a lot of ways. Boss was the title, but clearly this was another teacher that was teaching you. So
yeah, and she wasn't in her office all day either. She was the administrator, like the supervisor of not just the nursery school, but also of an early on program
right.
in another building.
Wow.
And she spent every one of her lunches in the nap room with us, helping put the kids to sleep.
Wow.
And we would hug them and rock them, and because they didn't know how to shut down and they were trying to feel safe.
Wow.
And she taught us and the kids how to do that.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Colette. I think actually this is a perfect segue into you talking or just telling us where we can find out more information about the Treasure Trove. So how can people connect with you? Where might they be able to find you online? And maybe even in person?
Yeah, right now I'm just on Instagram, and you can just look up the treasuretrove.to.
Okay.
And I'm there. I have been taking a bit of a break because,
Okay.
as I said, I got injured at the beginning of the
Right,
year
that's
and
right.
had some family stuff, but I hope to be getting back into it in the new year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Olivia, thank you so much. Great conversation. I think we've informed people of a lot of stuff that maybe they didn't know about education. And I've been trying to get you to come on for a while. So I'm just really happy that you've been able to extend some time to us. Really very much appreciated.
Thank you for providing a platform to do so.
Yeah, 100%. And with that, please follow, like, and subscribe to Challenging Class. Till the next time. And to Treasure Trove. Do not forget Treasure Trove.
Thank you.
And we're out. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so if you want to support the Treasure Trove, you can follow me on Instagram and just engage with my content, I guess, and purchase things and bring them into your, any child that's in your life, bring those things into their life. I have every single item you see, even if it's a shell, I've thought about it. And it's consciously curated and very intentional for their with child development and learning in mind.